Wow.
The stage is yours, Pascal.
That is by far the best introduction ever. So very briefly, I will speak English because my German is okay. But first of all, I speak way slower in German. I've got a lot of content to go through. Secondly, my jokes are way better in English. So we'll do it in English. Good morning. Thank you, Gero, for giving me the graveyard shift. I heard you had like an amazing night last night. So let me see if we can continue the energy and talk about the future. I want to take you on this crazy journey into the future, and I want to give you some very practical tools and frameworks to turn you into what we like to call a practical futurist. So here's my promise: after 30 minutes with me on the stage, you will all be certified practical futurists. Now, this being said, this is Stuart Brand. He's a legend in Silicon Valley. He once said that this present moment represents the once unimaginable future. And I think in many, many ways, that's exactly how the world feels. Very clearly, that's what's happening with AI. If you're living in the United States like I do, we have a beautiful, new, amazing president who's the once unimaginable future. So all of that stuff is happening. Yes, there you go. If you're feeling a little bit like my feline friend over here, you're getting ready to jump into this crazy future. You're taking in all this information, everything I can tell you, everything you learned yesterday and today, and everything you already know. Getting ready, one more data point, and leap into the future. Who feels like this when you wake up in the morning? Thank you. Thank you so much. Seriously, I've been doing tech for now 30 plus years. In tech, at least since the launch of ChatGPT 2 years ago, this is how I wake up every single morning. Also, just to let you know, I'm a dog person. We rescued a greyhound dog. I've got this beautiful big greyhound at home, so I don't really care about cats all that much. But if you like cats, it's great. No mistake. No cat was being harmed in the making of the video. The cat is fine. So what I want to do is I want to help you make this leap into the future better. And that's what we're going to do today. This is where we start our journey. For me, really important to understand that we have this tendency to attempt new world problems with old world thinking. I fundamentally believe the problems we're seeing in today's world look different. They are different. And in many ways, we still try to solve them with our old world thinking. So we have to change. And we all know that change and transformation is really, really hard. And I want to demonstrate to you how hard it is and why it is so hard. If you can do me a favor, if you could cross your arms in front of your body. Thank you. So, by the way, as a public speaker, one day I want to take a selfie and it's like with the audience, everybody sitting there is like, whatever, Pascal, I don't care. If I ask you to do this, you can all do this within like a second. You've got muscle memory, like you don't even think about this. Now do me a favor. If your left hand is on your right arm or vice versa, it doesn't matter, unfold it and refold it in the opposite way. There you go. Exactly. So I see a couple of you is like, like kind of like weird and like, hey, this is wrong. Like, where do my arms go? I see people like looking down at your body. This is the most powerful and quickest exercise. If you ever have anyone talk to you about change and you say, hey, well, change is hard. We have all heard that. This is the reason. You have muscle memory. You have a preferred way of doing things. If I ask you to cross your arms in front of your body, it's instant. If you want to change it, you need to exert mental energy. You actually have to think about it. And then here's the thing. Once you are in this new position, I guarantee you it feels wrong. I've been doing this for a long time. I know how to do this now. But even for me, if I'm in this position, which is not my normal position, it feels physically wrong. This is change. It's the easiest and easiest way of like demonstrating what change looks like. Now, this being said, we're living in a world of, the US military coined this term one, the VUCA. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I hate this term for a simple reason, because every time I hear, first of all, this doesn't mean anything to me. Secondly, every time I hear VUCA, it sounds to me like the VUCA 3000 electric Hoover. I actually think we're living in a world full of chaos. We live in a world which is complex, hyper-connected, ambiguous, it's overwhelming, and it's outright scary. And if you're thinking we're living in a world of increased uncertainty, you are not mistaken. The US Federal Reserve Bank in St. Louis publishes something called the World Uncertainty Index, and they've been doing this for decades now. So they measure how often do countries and companies report on uncertainty in their quarterly reports. And then they start indexing this. The red line is the floating average. When you look closely, you see, and this is 30 years worth of data, that uncertainty is rising. The one thing I can tell you with certainty is that uncertainty will increase. The second thing, just to point this out and just to give you an idea of how crazy this world is, you see the brown line here? This is COVID, the beginning of COVID. This here is the last quarter. This is quarter 1. We are nearly at the same crazy uncertainty index as we had during COVID. And this is pre-Trump tariffs. So we're about 4 days away from the new data, or 5 days away. I can't wait to see the new data because I guarantee you it will be off the charts. So we live in a world of uncertainty. And that world leads to a world of disruption. Now, for me personally, this journey into disruption started when I read a quote. I heard a quote from a gentleman called Joshua Paulo Lehmann. He's the co-founder of 3G Capital, one of the largest hedge funds in the world. And he pointed something out. He said once, in front of running cameras, in front of his colleagues, and I give him a lot of credit for this, he said, "I'm a terrified dinosaur. I've been living in this cozy world of old brands, big volumes, nothing changes very much, and you could just focus on being very efficient, you'd be okay. And all of a sudden, we're being disrupted in all ways." And quite frankly, that's exactly what change looks like. We're very fortunate to work with a lot of large corporations all around the world. None of the executives will ever admit to this publicly. And then you have a beer with them or a glass of wine, and they will say that this is exactly how I feel. And then, when people like Gero invite people like me, we come on these stages, we talk about disruption. By the way, if you think that this word disruption is overused, yes, it is massively overused. Because people like me, when we talk about disruption, we love to tell you stories. And we tell you a story about Kodak and Blockbuster and Nokia. And if you're anything like me, if I were to sit in your shoes right now, I would just throw up in my mouth. Because you heard that story so many times, right? It's the same story. It's always like, man, you take something like Kodak, invented the digital camera, gets disrupted by a software company. You take our friends from Blockbuster, the purveyor of the finest home video on the planet gets disrupted by another software company. And you take Nokia, the maker of the best headsets on the planet, getting disrupted by a Silicon Valley tech company. We have an obsession to look at the disruptors. We love to look at Netflix and say, how do we become the Netflix of our industry? And there's nothing wrong with it. There's a lot you can learn from these companies, but I think you're missing a much more important point. And this goes to Clayton Christensen, the guy who coined the term disruptive innovation. He said that people don't buy products, they hire products to make progress in specific circumstances. The simple example for this is, and this does not work in Germany, I know this. In the US, I always tell people, people don't buy a power drill, Bohrmaschine, for the simple reason to own a power drill. You buy a power drill because you have a home project to do. You want to fix something, you want to hang something, etc. Of course, in Germany, we buy a Bohrmaschine because we want to own a Bohrmaschine, because it's like German pride. That's a whole different story. But typically, you don't. And here's the thing. Clayton once called this the job to be done. And there's a really important little point about this, which is that these jobs to be done, a single product, a single service, anything you do for your clientele, for your clients, say you're in HR and you service the people inside of your organization, you do a lot of things. These jobs to be done, they often, like a single product, fulfills multiple jobs to be done. This is a good example. An Asian customer looking at a frying pan, it's very obvious what the job to be done is for this customer. But make no mistake, same product, different customer, different job to be done. So if you're in marketing, you already know. It's like for the first customer, it's all about non-stick, super light, makes the best pancakes on the planet. For the second customer, it will never break. Here's the most important thing I can tell you about the world of disruption. The jobs to be done do not change. I guarantee you, I absolutely 100% guarantee you, that every single one of you, if you're fulfilling a job to be done for your customer at the moment, say you're in HR, for example, and you do payroll, in 100 years, people still want to get paid, and you need to run payroll. It will look different, no doubt, but the job to be done for your customer doesn't change. You will still need to recruit people. You will still need to, whatever, like do benefits for people. In our earlier example, you're still taking pictures. They just don't happen to be on film anymore. They're digital now, of course. You're actually taking more pictures than ever before. You're still watching a movie in the comfort of your home, and you're still communicating with the device you carry in your pocket. It just looks a little differently, which is the reason why we have a different perspective on disruption. And if you don't believe me, you can take it from this guy here. This is, of course, Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon. 12 years ago at an Amazon conference, internal conference, he said something really profound. I want you to hear it from himself, because I think it's very insightful. The second thing, I love this clip for a couple reasons. One is it took us eons to find it, so I'm very proud that we actually unlifted it out of the archives. Secondly, just to point this out, he looks an awful lot like me, just saying. But this is him.
I very frequently get the question, what's going to change in the next 10 years? And that is an interesting question. It's a very common one. I almost never get the question, what's not going to change in the next 10 years? And I submit to you that that second question is actually the more important of the two. Because you can build a business strategy around the things that are stable in time. And so as you pointed out, in our retail business, we know the customers want low prices. And I know that's going to be true 10 years from now. They want fast delivery. They want vast selection. It's impossible to imagine a future 10 years from now where a customer comes up to me and says, Jeff, I love Amazon. I just wish the prices were a little higher. You know how I love Amazon. I just wish you delivered a little more slowly. Impossible.
So do ask the question, what's going to change? Absolutely. All of this conference is about what's going to change, right? Like the use of AI in recruiting, the use of, like whatever, software tools, the blockchain, whatever. But at the same time, do not forget to also to ask the question, what is not going to change about your business, about the work you're doing? And when you start doing this, you actually realize that you have a different perspective on disruption, because now you're looking at disruption as what we like to call a state change. State change is a concept that comes out of the world of physics. We borrowed it from the world of physics. If you're a physics major, please forgive me. This is a gross oversimplification, but the simplest way to explain this. You take water. It's frozen, it's ice, it's solid. You warm it, it becomes liquid, it becomes water. You increase the entropy, technically. You warm it further, eventually it becomes gas. It bubbles up. The in-between is called a state change. And the reason why we think this mental model works so well is twofold. Number one, the underlying molecule, H2O, is always the same. It's always H2O. The underlying job to be done for your customer does not change. What changes is the way you do it, how you fulfill this customer need. And then secondly, state changes don't happen on nice linear progressions. They happen on these exponentially accelerating curves. In the beginning, there's always stability. So you deliver a product, a service to a customer, one of your customers. In the beginning, there's always stability. If you're the incumbent, it's a perfect moment because you have stability in the market, meaning you have high margins, you can build a moat around your castle, the world is nice. But then you see weak signals emerging, indicators of what this new world could look like, of a better, a different way of fulfilling your customer need. And sometimes, they move gradually, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they become a strong signal and then they flip and the market shifts. And with that market shift comes one of the biggest challenges, bar none, if you're not prepared and you don't foresee those. I'll give you a simple example. I talk about Blockbuster. So very briefly to explain what Blockbuster, we remember, you might remember Blockbuster. I grew up on Blockbuster. So Blockbuster's job to be done is you watch a movie in the comfort of your home. So you watch Back to the Future, the DeLorean out there, and you're sitting on your sofa or you're in your bed. The way they did this, of course, is VHS video cassettes in a store. So that's the way they do this. What a lot of people forget about Blockbuster is how insanely big they were. 8,500 stores all across North America. Famously, there was a Blockbuster within 10 minutes of any urban zip code, so Postleitzahl, in the United States. 60,000 employees. Now here's an interesting question. First of all, if Gero and I come up with a brilliant idea to out-blockbuster Blockbuster, we would be absolutely stupid. Because these guys have cornered the market. They know better than anyone else what to do. Now here's the question. Their job to be done is watch a movie in the comfort of your home. But what is their core competency? What are these 60,000 people extremely good at? And I will make the argument that what they're really good at is they know best where to place one of these stores, which location, which geography, which street corner. And then they know how to paint that store blue and yellow, and how to put people in there, and how to put shelves in there, and how to get the videos in there, and how to rent them out to you. So impossible to compete with these guys. Until the state changed. So we go from VHS video cassettes to DVD. The job to be done is still you're watching a movie in the comfort of your home, but now you get a DVD, and the DVD is nice because it's nice and flat and thin and linear, and it has better video quality, better audio quality. You don't need to rewind it. By the way, if you've got kids at home which are like less than 18 years old, try to explain to them what rewinding even is. They literally look at you and they're like, what are you talking about? So we go to the DVD. But here's a fascinating thing. The founder of Netflix, Reed Hastings, looks at the DVD, holds it against the light, and says, wait a second, this thing is thin and light. And because it's thin and light, I can put it into an envelope and can ship it to your house. And now I solve 2 problems for you. Problem number 1 is, it's 10 minutes to Blockbuster. That sounds great, but it's still 10 minutes. One way. 10 minutes to Blockbuster, 20 minutes inside to find your movie, to rent it, and then go back 40 minutes later. And then you need to do it again because you need to return this thing. I ship it to your mailbox. All you need to do is you put on your pajamas, you go to the mailbox, 1 minute later, you got your DVD. Second, you go into your local Blockbuster, let's say the Kreuzberg Blockbuster. They only have 3 copies of the movie I want to watch. I want to watch Back to the Future. There's 3 copies. You already have rented it. I can't get it. I built a centralized warehouse with thousands of copies. Now I've got way better inventory control. I can make sure that you get to see what you want to see when you want to see it. And then I built this. Now here's a fascinating thing. My job to be done is still I watch a movie in the comfort of my home. What has changed is how I do it. And what has changed, and this is the most important thing you need to understand about disruption, why disruption is disruptive. Because overnight, your existing skills and processes became obsolete. You have 60,000 people who are world champions at running a store. But you don't need people who run a store. You need people who know how to do pick, pack, and ship. You need to go to Arvato from our Bertelsmann friends and have them build warehouses for you. You need to go to Deutsche Post and negotiate with them. It's not about painting a store in yellow and blue. And then, of course, the state changed once more. We go to streaming media. Now it's not about, again, the same thing. You're still watching a movie in the comfort of your home. This hasn't changed. What has changed, though, now is I don't even go to a store anymore. Now I just click on my Apple TV or my Google TV or whatever it is. State changes have been with us forever. They just happen to be faster now. Horses and buggies to cars. The job to be done is I want to get from A to B. That took us 40 years, and ironically, not a single horses and buggies car company made it into this car world. The only company out of this world which has survived is a company called Hermes. They make luxury leather goods. Your challenge is that you have to prepare for this world and prepare yourself for the stuff you can do today. Like, look at AI. AI is clearly not where it's supposed to be. It's amazing, might be no doubt, but it makes still lots of mistakes. It's not scalable, blah, blah, blah. So you need to, as a leader, figure out what can you do today, and at the same time, you need to envision what the future looks like, because the future happens so fast. In the last 5 minutes, I want to talk about something, an approach on how you can think about structuring your company, your organization, your teams, to deal with this, because you live in a world of chaos. We hate chaos, we don't like chaos, we want order. Order is great. The problem is our feeble attempt at taming chaos into order is this, the org chart. The org chart has this idea that you can actually control, that you can have the benign CEO coming up with great ideas, telling them to their VPs, and the VPs, and then you follow lines and boxes, and everybody stays in lines and boxes. That sounds amazing, but I think it doesn't work. It might have never really worked before. It surely does not work in an environment which is so dynamic as ours. The old way is this idea, right? Like you gather information, you create a strategy, you execute. Classic example, the 5-year plan. My dear friend Katja, who works with me at Google, at eBay in 2000, will remember we did a 8-month strategy project called Zugspitze. So 8 months, we combined, bring a 5-year strategy forward. We built this goddamn strategy. We launched it on a Monday. By Friday, our friends from Amazon announced Amazon Marketplace. We take our strategy because it was we didn't see it. So we take our strategy, rip it apart, and we start a new strategy process because that's what we do, and we call it Matterhorn. That was the moment I knew that I need to leave eBay. It doesn't work. Now here's the thing. When you look again at chaos and order, and you ask yourself, what do I get out of chaos and order? Order is great. It gives you structure, stability, predictability, the thing we want in a business. But look once more closely at what you get when you look at chaos. And you realize it gives you all the stuff you want these days. The sexy stuff, flexibility, adaptability, innovation inevitably comes out of chaos. You cannot innovate in a super structured environment. It just doesn't work. So what you want is you want a little bit of both. You want to bring these things together, something which is D. Hawk, the founder of Visa, once called a chaotic system, or short, a chaort. And he pointed something out. So this is the founder of Visa. He said, here's the important thing. It's not that we became a world of expert managers, but the nature of our expertise has changed. 10, 20 years ago, it was fine to be like an expert in becoming and controlling constant uniformity and efficiency. But today what we need is we need to become good at understanding and coordinating variability, complexity, and effectiveness. So this old idea that you could do this doesn't work. What you need to do is you need to actually empower the people at the front. I'm not telling you anything new here, but you need to empower the people on the front lines, and your role as a leader, as a manager, becomes one of coordination, not one of leading by decree, which then gets you to an interesting world. Oh, this video doesn't play. Dang, okay. Let me just tell you. You would have seen now, on this blank screen, would have been a murmuration of starlings. If you've ever seen this beautiful flock of starlings moving, it is incredible, an incredible sight to be seen. Now here's the thing. I happen to know a world expert in starling migration, which is a wild thing to do, and it's an interesting career choice, whatever. And I spoke to him and I said, you need to explain this to me because I don't understand. Because starlings, birds, nature does not like to waste energy. They surely don't move the way they're moving to entertain us. And he said, no, you don't understand. Here's what happens for every starling. So first of all, when you see this flock of starlings, they don't have a CEO starling who's at the front and barks commands to the back. But every single bird knows what the direction is. They know where they need to go, what their North Star is. They know what winning looks like. And then every single bird orients themselves on the other birds around them and the environment. So they create micro-optimizations inside of their little pocket. And what then happens is that these birds happen to move in the most energy-efficient way from A to B. The old way, and I think we should think about how we run our companies like that. The old way was you get the strategy right, you execute linearly against a strategy. I don't think that works. Surely not in an environment where you can't even predict what tomorrow looks like. A good reason for that is my president. They wake up, they tweet a shit whatever, comes into his little brain in the morning. Your business is a different business by the afternoon. So what you need to do is you need to get direction right. You need to understand where you need to go. What is your direction of travel? What is your North Star? And you need to get everyone really aligned on this. Gero showed you this 8-word mission statement. That's a perfect way to get everybody really aligned on this. And then you embark on this squiggly line, what a friend of mine once called the drunken walk of the entrepreneur. You empower your people to move towards this, but at the same time adjust to whatever happens in the environment. And this is not just theory, it's not just me babbling about this. Companies like Visa are built after those principles. And principles are very simple, just to repeat them. You agree on the core principles. Everyone in your organization needs to know what winning looks like. What is the North Star? How do we do business? Then you push the decision-making out to the edges. You push it to the people who are closest to the actual problem, who know how to make the decision. It's not enough to just let them make the decision. You need to empower them to act on it. So you give them authority to execute on this. And then lastly, you let information flow freely through this system. And what you create is the most robust, most innovative systems in the world, because they become insanely flexible. Again, this is not just theory. Companies like, we built Mozilla. I used to work at Mozilla, the Firefox web browser. I was employee number 70. In our heydays, we had less than 100 employees, 500 million users, 2 people in customer support, 93 languages which we shipped in, of which we made 1, which is North American English. We empowered our community after those principles to just take up the slack. You want Firefox in German? Sure, go ahead, translate it. We empower you to do this. Companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, the list is endless. They're all built after those principles. It's about moving from hierarchical control to dynamic possibility. And I want to leave you with a last quote. This one is from a dear friend of mine, Ron Shaich. Ron was the founder of a company called Panera Bread. It's a healthy fast food chain in the United States. And Panera became insanely successful super early in digital. They had iPads in their stores before anyone else. They have a super good digital ordering system. They have a digital supply chain. And I asked him one day, I said, explain to me how you did this. And he said something really interesting. He said to me this. He said, our approach at Panera has always been to discover today what matters tomorrow, and then to transform our company into a future that is unfolding before us. If you want to know what tomorrow looks like, you create tomorrow, but you have to actually envision it. You need to sit down and envision tomorrow. So we're going to do a little workshop later, if you are up for this, where we actually walk you into the future, and we'll give you an actual tool to do exactly this kind of work. And here's my last offer for you. At my company, Gero mentioned this, I very fundamentally believe that the work we're doing is always only the beginning of a journey. So I want to invite you. It's like this is a gift from us to you. If you send a blank email to this email address, 2 things will happen. One is you will get an email immediately back with my personal contact details, literally my telephone number and my email. I invite you, if you ever have a question, you have a lifetime of free questions. And this is not just marketing, blah, blah. This is literally an offer. If you ever have a question, anything you want to discuss, I am super happy to pick up the email or get on the phone with you. The second is we'll send out our latest research, which we share with our community twice a week. We'll just add you to the mailing list. Now, this being said, I'm 2 minutes over. Not too bad today. I wish you all an insanely good morning. We'll have a few books. I'm happy to sign them. Here's a trick. Katja will know this, as old eBay folks. Have it signed. You can sell it for more money on eBay. Do not have me write your name in it, because if it says, Dear Barbara, it doesn't sell all that well on eBay. Just saying. Thank you so much.